direction. It's a very decent budget.
Okay, very decent, nothing earth-shattering. Okay, it's not smacking of the reveries. Okay, so that's not a bad estimate to go away from. I promise you, what I was used to be listening is railway budget has been done away with, but it would be, we're announcing 500 new trains. Okay, and everybody going, wow, amazing, amazing. We're cancelling all your loans. Wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. None of that has happened. Okay, the devil is of course always in the detail. With that, let me bring in Chirag Baijal. He's Managing Director of Carrier, joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Baijal, appreciate your time with us. So your guesstimation. So let me take the overall picture before I ask you for the specificities. Did it sound like or smack of populism, or did it sound like a pragmatic, forward-looking budget?
Well, I think it's clearly pragmatic and a realistic one at that.
So realistic. Are we as a country, sir, from what you heard yesterday, from what you yourself are experiencing in terms of your business environment, from what you've heard today, given that the global environment is a bit tricky right now, both inflation, economy, countries around us are in trouble, are we doing okay? Are we in trouble, or are we actually doing pretty decently?
I think we're doing reasonably well, and if you also look at it from another perspective, let me just turn this around and tell you, it's called meet the moment, because if we are doing better versus others, it's also possibly the time for us to maybe play a little more offensive, which is what we are trying to do with capital expenditure going up. And while public expenditure was increasingly better in the last 3 to 4 years, private capital expenditure is now likely to catch up. So I would be more inclined towards saying that if supply chain led inflation can be brought under control, which is where domestic manufacturing really helps, that is only going to add much shot in the arm, much more power to us.
Okay, is there more, I won't say emphatically so, but is there more ease of doing business? Because government really makes a themology that we have cut away these 30,000 compliances, we are doing away with the criminalization of all sorts of offences, we are making it easier for people like you to function. Are you finding it easier to function, even if it's marginally right now?
It's marginal, but it's in the right direction. And this has to really accelerate, because when you look at multinational companies who would like to do business in the country, they would really want more of digital-led compliance as well, which kind of is black and white. You take people out of the entire process, and it's more speed outside of just ease of doing business. So it's a mix of both. But we've got to do more on that, and more on that quicker.
Okay, Mr. Baijal, when we generally sit and discuss budgets, and it comes down to big companies, a 0.25% here or a 0.5% here can matter. But then that becomes a pecuniary detail. What fundamentally over the next 2-3 years will make it better for you to do business and manufacture in this country? Do you need better logistics? Do you need better roads, better infrastructure, more reliable power, greener power? What do you need?
Okay, so that's a great question, because if you were to look at it, the basics of doing business, which is land, labor, capital, this is the holy trinity for any economy and any business. If this were to look at a digital backbone around all three of them, which looks at ease of doing business, compliance being taken care of, and at the same time we don't have issues around access to electricity, water, we don't have issues around labor as much, with hopefully the new codes coming into play in a more efficient manner. If the private consumption continues to rise the way that it is rising, that is exactly what will lead us to a better earnings, and earnings is what gets reinvested back into the country. So we need to have that virtuous cycle where the costs come down of doing business through compliance or logistics, consumption goes up, we have more capital coming in, the personal purchasing power is going up, and that's a kind of a cycle that I'm really seeing, which must happen in the next 2 or 3 years.
Okay, last question before I let you go, sir. The other part of the translation headache or quagmire is between what the government at the center hopes, aspires, wishes and wants to do versus the translation once it filters through the states especially if the states are, not politically aligned. How is that translation matrix becoming better, if at all, sir?
Now, that's the biggest question, or a tricky one at that, for any government in a constitution the way that we are. Some of the ways I'm seeing that might work is if there is a extra allocation to the state governments that is being announced as support with interest-free loans, and that is tied to the state's capital expenditure. I think that's a brilliant move. If we are able to do more, let's say, on power reforms and take some of the leakages out that the states are currently suffering with, which is also where the focus is. More cohesive work is the only way to make a democracy work. And whether it's politically aligned or not, I think somewhere we will also look at that maturity coming into our country where we rise above that. I see some offshoots, some green shoots of that, so I'm really hoping, I'm hopeful on that.
Okay. Your hopes, my hope is that government builds us the infrastructure and then gets out of the way, while the people like you come and build the economy. What's your best hope?
My hope is like yours, because I believe that we are proud Indians and we are very enterprising. We need good quality infrastructure and, as much as possible, good governance versus the command and control over everything. So more checks and balances, more of digital, make sure that that impacts that corruption automatically. Okay. And that's the way why I'm more hopeful.
Okay, Chirag Baijal, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the broadcast. Kirti Shah joining us on the broadcast as well. He's a diamond tier. And Kirti Shah, I don't know whether you're going to be thrilled or slightly worried that we are now going to be making lab-made, lab-grown diamonds. Is it a massive opportunity, or is it a massive systemic risk for the diamond trade?